Welcome to the Social Media Takeaway. I'm your host, Louise McDonnell, and today I'm speaking to independent book publisher Orla Kelly. And today we're going to talk about the steps that you should follow if you want to write a non-fiction book. We'll also be discussing the pitfalls to avoid. So hi everyone, and you're very welcome to this episode of the Social Media Takeaway. Today I'm delighted to be joined by my publisher, Orla Kelly from Orla Kelly Publishing. So Orla Kelly is an independent book publisher, having set up Orla Kelly Publishing back in 2014. And since then she has published over 200 books in 30 different book categories. Now she works with business professionals who want to increase their influence and visibility in the marketplace, helping them to write and publish the best book to grow their business and enhance their credibility as the go-to expert in their field. You're very welcome to the show, Orla.
Thanks so much, Louise, for having me on.
No, my pleasure, my pleasure. So do you want to maybe tell us a little bit about your backstory?
Yeah, I suppose it's chalk and cheese. I've come from an environmental consultancy background where you could find me swinging off chimney stacks, doing air pollution testing, being on wind farms, contaminated land reassessments, the works. But really, I suppose I got into publishing purely by accident when my kids were young. My son was very sick, so I gave up work to take care of him. And suddenly I found, what am I going to do with myself? But I was always like figuring out how do I do different things. And really, when I worked, I was very technical. I was very analytical, methodical. But when you have kids, that gets thrown out the window. So you have to relearn how to do things like jigsaws, tell stories. And suddenly the creative, imaginative side of my brain kicked in for a few years. And so I started to tell them stories. And then one day my son, we used to get books from the library and we'd run out of reading material. And so my son started to write a little story for his sister. Like he was probably about, 7 at the time, she was 5. And anyway, it was time to go to bed. And he said, "Oh, Mum, my story's not finished." I said, "Sure." He said, "Can you finish the story for me?" And I went, "Grand, sure, I would have done anything to get them to bed." But of course, then when I sat down and I looked at what he wrote, I went, "How can I do this? This is beautiful." But I made them a promise. So I sat down and I started to just write out what I felt would be a good addition to the story. And, but I wanted little life lessons put into it that they wouldn't listen to if it's mom telling them these messages. But, it was told through forest animals. And every night I would write a little bit more, read them the story. And then my daughter said, "Mom, can you print it out for us?" Light bulb moment. I'm going to do more than that. I'm going to teach myself how to publish. I don't know where it came from, but as soon as I had put it out there, I started figuring out when they were asleep. When my son was at school, my daughter at primary school, I was figuring out how to do this. How do I do this? So I started to teach myself. And, I remember when I actually taught myself how to publish my book on Amazon, I was so terrified. I was afraid to tell anybody because imposter syndrome, they'll think, who does she think she is? Does she think she's the next J.K. Rowling? And then I was afraid of negative comments and all that. And I still never forget that vulnerability of being an author, of putting your work out there and afraid, what are people going to think? Can I handle rejection? What if it's not good enough? And you do. And even I find as a business professional now, we still have those same fears. We absolutely do. No matter how many books you publish.
Totally identify with that. I was the first book I wrote, my Facebook marketing book, which I was writing, I'd say from maybe 2016, I was writing it. And I remember like that, when I thought about, oh my goodness, who's going to see this? And what are they going to say about it? And I would literally, I would be paralyzed. I would literally be at my keyboard and I would not be able to type anything just because of the fear. And as part of the process that I followed to write the book, I had to have images of my avatars all around my desk. And so when I looked at my avatars, and these were the people that I was helping day in, day out through my training and my coaching, and I thought, well, if I can reach them and they read it, they're going to think they're going to really enjoy it. Because I know through my day-to-day, that's how I help people. And when I looked at my avatars, I could type. And when I thought about my competitors, I would be frozen in fear. And then I think you just have to get to the point where you go, oh, well, just do it.
You do. And even now that I'm a publisher, and I think people knowing that I'm not just a publisher, but I've come that route and I know what it's like. I really feel it stood to me in offering a very personal service because I know different people need different levels of support throughout the whole process, and no one ever knows what's going on in someone's life at any particular time. So sometimes I need to just hold that space. Other times I might need to give a gentle push or a prompt. Other times I need to give encouragement. Look, no, it really, I have your back. If it wasn't good enough, I would tell you because it's not just your reputation, it's mine too. And I think when somebody knows they're not alone, that somebody that they have a professional behind them who wouldn't put them almost in harm's way or have them put something out there that you know is not their best work. That's so reassuring. It really and truly is, because I think that's what the fundamentals. Yes, I can publish books, so can other people, but it's what makes you different, and what makes all of us different is what's key.
That's so true. And I always remember, like, you published my annual social media content planner and guide. And I always love when you come back and you go, Louise, this is really good, or this
Yeah,
is, and you tell me what you like about it. And, you know, sometimes, you can be a lonely place when maybe you're the most, you're the most senior person in your organization. Maybe you have a team of people, but you're still, the owner of that organization.
yeah,
And so to have somebody who's a peer come back and say that is super good, that's really good, I really like it, you've done a great job. And that is, I know that I remember the feeling,
yeah,
what
yeah,
it's like, oh great, thank you, and it just gives
yeah.
you that little bit of encouragement to keep going.
Yeah, and it's not like that your ego needs it. You don't. But it's just you need to feel something. You're in a safe pair of hands, and somebody has your back, and there's an extra pair of eyes on your book in case you miss something, leave something out, something you may have overlooked, that there's somebody there who's following the process and saying, okay, well, look, I'm not just your publisher, but I'm reading it as a target, who your target market is. So if I'm reading it and I'm enjoying it and I'm following through and it makes sense, then so will your target market. And I think that's really important.
Brilliant. And so for anyone that's here, any coaches, consultants, online entrepreneurs that are here that are not published authors, but kind of have it, in their heads, like this is something, because I know I had it in my head for about 2 years before I actually signed up to a course, like a write your own nonfiction in 90 days. I did a program. And I think if I hadn't have done that, it would have always been on my, yeah, I'm going to do it. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. And then it just never did it. So for anyone who is kind of thinking that they want to write a book, what would you say to encourage them to take the next step?
Do you know what? I suppose I've been very lucky, and it's very humbling that anyone who works with me, they haven't regretted the process, because again, they've always been glad that they've done it. If anything, my busiest time was probably during COVID, because people had time to finish the book. They couldn't use procrastination as an excuse, And a lot of the time, people just they need to know that they're supported, because you do feel alone, and you feel like, oh God, this is going to be, I don't have the time for this. This is going to take forever. But it doesn't have to be forever. There's so many different um, opportunities for you to write your book, whether you need it just to be interviewed and say, okay, well, look, let's just set aside so many sessions. I will interview you. Let's talk about the outline. Let's talk about the structure. I can set the questions, or you can help me and send some prompts, and have it as a fireside conversation. And then it gets transcribed, put in some sort of order. So it doesn't have to be you tapping away at your keyboard, maybe your head wrecked and you're exhausted. Or else you can record it into your dictaphone, at all different times of the day or the evening when a moment of inspiration comes, and get it transcribed. So it doesn't have to be a slog, and it doesn't have to be hard, and it doesn't have to be painful.
Yet at the same time, when you are a published author, it just kind of puts you in a different category. It's nearly like your business card. It's, all of a sudden you're available to anyone in the world to buy your book if it's available on Amazon. It gives you credibility. It's something that if you're speaking at events, you can bring it with you, you can sell it,
Oh,
you
yeah.
can give, people a taste of what you're about, and from there you can develop a further relationship with them. So it's definitely worth doing. And I don't regret any of the books that I published.
Absolutely.
You know,
It
they're
does make you stand apart, because there's so many other business professionals who haven't written books, and like social media. So again, it's like, well, they have to work harder to try and stand out from their competitors, because, there's a certain authority associated when you become a published author, because it's like, you know what you're talking about, and you've proved it, and here it is. It's something tangible you have. But it doesn't always have to be a physical print book. Now, I think physical print books are amazing because, as you say, networking events, if you have a meeting, a business lunch with somebody and you're talking about a problem they're having, can you imagine just saying to them, yeah, that problem we're having, I actually discussed that in chapter 5. Would you like a copy of my book? Suddenly it's like, whoa, this person is different to the last person I was talking to, or that proposal that came across my desk. This is actually a published author, it does. It's psychological, but it does work, and it's a brilliant lead magnet for growing your business. It also educates people. You control the narrative. You control the message, the tone of voice, what you want to communicate in your book, how you like to communicate, the value and the results you achieve. And it's going to be working for you then because people are picking up the book. They're never going to bin a book. Business cards get lost. Books have value, massive value.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, so for anyone who's thinking about writing their first nonfiction, their first business book, what steps do you recommend that they should follow in order to start from a blank screen or page to, that big launch event where they're celebrating the launch of their first book?
There's so much to really think about. First of all, you need to look at the bigger picture, okay? What are you absolutely passionate about that your clients are always raving about, that when somebody speaks about you in conversation, they're going to be talking about, you need to talk to Louise, she does X, Y, and Z, she's amazing. So it's what results you actually achieve, okay? So again, if you're achieving results, that should be what you write about in your book. Who also you like to work with, because there's no point in writing a book and attracting the wrong people to your business who really you don't ever want to work with. They're not your target market. They may pay you, they may want to work with you, but there's no point in being in business if you don't enjoy who you're working with or who you're attracting to your business. Okay, again, you've got to consider, well, what makes me different? How can I make this not just another generic book? Okay, so what is my unique angle? What makes me different to somebody else who does the same type of work? Okay, because again, people do buy from people. So again, they need to feel that the know, like, and trust factor is there, that they actually like you as a person. Because even if you're a business professional, if they don't like you, they're not going to buy from you. They're not going to read your book or engage with your service or recommend to you. Then you need to consider, well, what can they get from me that they can't get from somebody else? It's not just, I'm talking about the emotional benefits, the support, in addition to the tangible results. Then you really need to look at, okay, well, what's going to be the theme of my book? So if I know all of that and I know what I'm passionate about, that I could speak for everyone, because if I can speak for everyone and I'm fired up, that energy, that enthusiasm, that tone is going to come through in your voice. Okay. That's so when somebody's reading your book, they're going to go, I like the sound of that person. They get me, I get them. And then when they pick up the phone to talk to you or get on a call with you, a Zoom call, they recognize you through the book. Okay, absolutely. So the theme is what your overall topic is going to be. You're going to write about the tone of the voice. Am I going to come across as, informative, informal, just engaging and warm, storytelling, or is this going to be just an educational and authority style book? I always say try to use the same language that you normally use in your business life. But really, it should also be, I always feel that still needs to be who you genuinely are as a person. Again, what's the purpose of your book? My book is to, what you want to achieve. My book is for, and be very clear on who your target audience is. Like, for example, it's for, single parents who are struggling with day-to-day financial needs. So my book is going to be financial planning for single parents, for example. That's my overall theme of the book. Okay. Then you're going to need to look at, well, so that's the theme of the book. The purpose of the book is, well, what does my book need to contain if it's supposed to be for this target group? So then you break it down as to what they need to hear from you, how you're going to communicate your value, and show that you understand what their problems are, how you can help them, and not just how you can help them, how you are best able to help them more than anybody else. Okay. And then you need to look at, well, okay, if I'm going to write this book, how am I going to position it? And where am I going to position it? Do people want a paperback book? Or am I going to push the boat out and have a hardback book that maybe I'm going to keep them for my, mastermind clients only, or you can't order online. So it really is by invite only. I'm giving them to my high fee paying clients. Everyone else can buy a paperback book. Or are they going to need instant results to, now, right now, that maybe I can give them an ebook format? Or maybe if they're traveling a lot and would they like to listen to maybe the sound of my voice, that I can actually communicate the voice using my passion, using my integrity, and create an audiobook version. So there's so many different touch points, even around publishing, that you can offer to your target readers, because different people like to consume information in different ways as well. So you need to think of all these things, and obviously having the more options available, the better.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of just summarize all that. I've been
Yeah.
writing, scribbling away here, listening to you intently. But so basically, if you the steps you want to think about, just as Orla has just said, you got to think about what you're passionate about, what subject you're passionate about, and what is results that you can help people achieve. And then you got to think of who it is that you're going to be able to help, and you're going to be able to work with, and you've got to really think about them when you're writing the book. Then you got to think what makes the advice that you're going to give different. And so that's going to make your book different. And so that's going to help you not only with the content in the book, but also promote the book. Always when you're writing your book, you're going to be aiming to build trust, especially if it's a business book, because
Yeah.
the book is really just the starting point. It's just a lead generation. It's everything that comes from the book. So you want to be able to build trust. You want to get people to know, like, and trust you. You've got to then think about the overall, using all that information, think about the overall theme of the book. And then from there, think also about the tone. Do you want it to be educational, inspirational, or what do you want that tone to be? And that tone should also match your tone, because it needs to feel like it's truly you. And then you've got to think about what the book structure. So what does it need to contain? How are you best going to structure that to achieve everything that we've just set out? How are you going to position the book? And where are you going to position it? Are you going to have it available freely on Amazon, or is it going to be just available at your own events, or maybe it's available only to your higher fee paying clients on your website? And then of course there's the different formats of the book. You've got to think, is it an ebook? Or is it like something that's actually a paperback or hardback? Or is it an audiobook? Or is it all of those things? So that's fantastic, Orla. And tell me, like, what mistakes do you generally see people make when, if they were going to publish a book and they don't seek advice?
Yeah, like it's very hard to retro fix a book after it's come to me. And sometimes I always say, if you want to get your book published, you should really get solid advice early on, because you could end up writing the wrong book or a generic book. And then it can just come across as like a textbook, because you're trying to show your authority, but you're forgetting to put some personality and engagement into it. So again, I always say, if I pick up a book, I would love to have a table of contents that when I'm scanning through, go, oh, this is a great book, because I know by the table of contents they're addressing the issues I have. Then when I turn the page, I would love to see a part that it was a message from the author about why you wrote the book, who it's for, what you'll get as a result of reading the book. So what's contained in the book and how you will benefit. So before I even if I'm thinking of buying the book, and if it's online, or even just if I have a physical copy and I'm browsing it, wondering will I buy it, if I read that, that will tell me enough whether that book is for me or not. Okay, because again, it shows also that what the person writing the book understands me, because they're my pain points. That's exactly what I need in the book, and it's telling me how I'm going to benefit. Bingo! Of course, it shows you've written with intent, intention, and also that the content is delivering on your promise. I have seen lots of books, talk about that, what they're going to do, and they just don't do it,
Do it.
or it fizzles, or books take too long to do, and the author gets jaded or distracted and repeats themselves, or just gets bored and just says, okay, it's done. And it's
Yeah.
harder to fix those books afterwards.
Okay, so number one mistake would be coming to a publisher when you've already gone so far down the line with your book that, there's, it just can't, it's be too hard to fix, basically.
It can be fixed, but it may not be the best angle that you need to target. It may not be your target audience because you might be just thinking, I need to write a book because everyone's telling me I should write a book. But it's just another book. You may not put the thought into it. Well, who needs to read this book, and what do I want them to do? Oh, well, I've got this course coming up, or I've got a mastermind, or I'm changing direction. Oh, and this book needs to be written for them. So you're not really thinking about, who you're writing for. And that can be one of the biggest mistakes then as well,
So
And if
that,
then
yeah, yeah.
books being too long and too long-winded and repetitive.
Yeah, actually, that even reminds me of me having my avatars stuck up around my desk when I was typing my first book, and yeah, it actually really helped because when I looked at them and I'd say, what would I say to them about this particular topic and this particular chapter I'm writing about in the book, and then it would just flow out of me. I would just write it like I was saying it, and it would yeah. So yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's number one mistake. Any other mistakes people make?
The other mistake is maybe not getting their book professionally edited. They might
Oh,
think, well, my writing is it's fine, but you can get blindness from looking at your screen and being too familiar with your content. So I always say, look, really do, even if it's not a full edit, you do need a professional proofread to look after it. Editing is not just fixing typos. It's not or finding missing words. A good editor will look at the whole structure, the flow, and the clarity. And clarity is something when it's a business book, you really do need to have clarity. So
brilliant.
I think that would definitely be one of them. And also not having any takeaways or calls to action at the end of every chapter,
Ah,
or having a call to action at the end, which leads somebody to where you want them to go, what action you want them to take at the very end of the book also.
okay, brilliant. So, okay, first big mistake is coming to a publisher too late when you're far down the road with your writing and your structure, and it just may not be, it may not be good enough. It's just
Mhm.
because you're not an expert. You're an expert in your field, but you're not an expert in writing books. Second thing, not getting it professionally edited. And third thing, was not having a call to action.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, very good.
Absolutely. And also in terms of layout, if there's a lot of content there, it's like looking at, okay, well, what can I do to break up this content? Maybe if I put in a table, maybe if I put in a quote, maybe if I put in bullet points, use different style headings, what to do to make it easier and a more enjoyable experience for the reader as well. So you're
Very
thinking of the
good.
reader in mind
All the time. Perfect.
all the
Any other mistakes people make?
not getting their book out there, having it hanging around forever and just never getting it finished. It sadly it is a big one. Or also maybe looking at the content and saying realizing afterwards that they're trying to have cover too many topics, but it's just coming across in the wrong order as well, or you're trying to do too many things and it's just not very clear what the book is even about or what do you want the reader to do. So there are people who write books and it's just not clear why they're writing it or what they want to achieve, and it just becomes another book, and somebody may never finish the book and put it down, and the author has lost that potential for building a relationship with somebody. So you need not just a call to action, but you need different types of call to actions, because some person may be reading a part of the book and one call to action may not resonate with them. But then in a later chapter, either the same one or a different type of one may resonate with them based on the content at that time and what they need. So you need to have different, not just one, but just different touch points there that will resonate with them.
Yeah, one of the best pieces of advice that I got this year from my 2024 social media planner and guide was I have like $377 or worth of free resources in the planner. And I used to just kind of mention those like at the beginning of the planner in my intro, and I had a page where I mentioned them, and I think they were mentioned maybe in two or three places in the planner. But then somebody made a suggestion. It was such a good suggestion that for the my daily prompts, there's like for every month of the year, there's like the month is set out, and every day within the month has a prompt associated with it. So it's maybe National Hugging Day or things like that. But at the top of each one of those pages now, I have the don't forget to download your free resources. And it's had a massive impact on the number of people who have taken that action because, as you said, it's just more visible. And you've got to think about the people who don't read the intro and the people who don't, who skip through and just look at the particular parts of the book. Like, so yeah,
Absolutely.
that's such good advice.
Yeah. And you see, the thing is, you've got to be open to change as well, to try different things. There is no failure, it's only feedback completely. And and sometimes people just give up and say, "Oh, my book's not selling, it's useless." And they just forget that maybe the cover's not working, maybe the title's not working, maybe the message isn't communicated right. So you do need to call in experts, you know, to do an evaluation, say, okay, well, let's just try this, and you just try different things till you find out what works. And sometimes, yes, you do need somebody in who's going to critically look at this and say, well, what type of marketing are you putting out there about your book? Well, is that really what the book is about? Or and by having an expert come in and look at it strategically is so important because you're so close to your own content. You may not be getting the right message out there, or in the
Absolutely.
right forum.
This is all really, really good advice, Orla. Yeah, this is re really, really good. Tell me, what are your thoughts about AI and the likes of ChatGPT?
Yeah, well, I know, like, actually, even I have one client now. She's written a number of books. I've published four of her books so far, and she's done one herself now using AI prompts. But again, she's using her own content, but then she's using ChatGPT for prompts as to chapter titles and subtitles and topics to cover, and that's great. But I always say, see it as a resource to use, but don't ever replace what's genuinely yours and what's up here, because we don't want tools replacing our brain and what makes us unique. Um, so I do say, if it helps you, get you fired up, gives you prompts to inspire you to take action, definitely use it. But don't forget all of this wealth of knowledge and expertise you have, that's irreplaceable, and it's your intellectual property. It's why clients want to work with you as opposed to working with a robot. And I think the power of human connection is irreplaceable.
This is so true. This is so true. Yeah. So yeah, ChatGPT, wonderful tools for helping productivity,
Mm,
but all your own ideas, all your creativity, yeah, don't lose yourself to it. Yeah,
yeah.
I would totally agree. Can you think of an example in your whole publishing career, something that really stood out as a success and something that that you were
Yeah, I suppose sometimes it's down to there's so many things I could say that there's the biggest success factor, I would say, for any particular book, when I look back now at all of the books I've done, has been the author behind the book and how passionate they are about their book and the message it contains. That has been rocket fuel because, again, I offer a service. I do, like, what I feel a really good service. I get on really well with my clients. But the catalyst, I feel, for success of any book really is down to the author behind the book. For them, how passionately they speak about their message, how they help people, getting visibility on their books and taking the steps to be visible, as opposed to just thinking because they think their book is great, everyone else is going to find it great and do nothing about it and think it's going to be found. Sadly, it won't. And I do definitely find, even if you feel, well, I'm passionate about my book, but I haven't the time in my book, outsource. Just have that conversation. And any really good marketing company will actually keep your integrity and your author's voice, but they will communicate effectively for you. So I do feel either you're going to have to do the marketing publicity yourself, or you're going to have to outsource, but you can't do none of them. It
you
just
can't not do it.
unfortunately won't work. It won't. Your book, unfortunately, you'll be a published author. You'll have copies of your book. It will be online, but it does need publicity.
You need to push it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you do
yeah.
completely.
I totally get that as well. So, Orla, any other advice then you'd give anybody thinking out now? So, like, how long does it take? How long does it take to write a book? What kind of time frame should they be thinking of?
I would think for anybody to, I suppose from start to finish, it really can take 5 to 6 months. It depends if you're starting from scratch. Okay. Again, I would always say if somebody is genuinely knows now, I really genuinely do need to publish a book to grow my business. I would think, come to me, have that conversation, you know, and let's get you, started on the line. Because again, one of my programs that I give to all my clients is Foundations for Success, and it's making sure that you write the right book to grow your business. Looking at your USP, your target readers, your tone of voice, looking at all of the bigger picture and in how you communicate to make sure you write the right book first time, so that then when that gets edited and it's ready to be published, everything is perfect. So again, that's what I would recommend to people.
And so you have a really cool free ebook that you're going to offer all the listeners here today. It's available in the link in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I have written this with business professionals in mind. So to make sure that they know all the steps they need to take and why they should publish their book.
And so just to let everyone know, that's called the Unlock the Untold, a guide to writing a business book. So Orla, that I think will be an invaluable resource to anyone who is thinking about writing a business book. I would certainly recommend, following a structure, following a guide, because as I said, I've written like 4 books now. You're an expert in your own field, but you're not an expert in writing books. And, when you start off, you're really enthusiastic. But that enthusiasm will wane at a certain point. And so having a structure that you're following will help you just to get through the process. And it's well worth it, because that time when you launch your book, and I remember the feeling, I never forget the feeling of receiving the book, my first book ever in the post. And I got it, and I didn't expect to get it because it came early. And I remember opening up the package and the feeling, it nearly literally just, I felt this kind of energy nearly push me back. I was just so I couldn't, but I just literally jumped back. It was such a feeling to hold this book in your hands and to look at the cover and to see your name. It's just phenomenal. I know then people used to send me photographs of my book on the shelves in different bookstores. And that was a phenomenal feeling. I know there was one where I just seemed to be always on the bookshelf beside Elon Musk for some reason.
Oh,
So again, I would say, if you're thinking about writing a book, and I know we've talked about using it as as a lead magnet, as something to help you grow your business. But equally, sometimes it can be just a book that you want to write just to also to capture all the knowledge that you have. It's nearly a legacy that you can leave as well. And that book, will always be there, and you can hand it down through the generations in your family. That's your legacy. That's your piece of work. And nobody can ever take that away from you. So I think it's a wonderful thing to do. And I think, by all means, reach out to Orla. She'll help you. That free ebook is going to be the first thing to get you going. So I'll put that in the show notes. I'll put it in the link. You'll be able to pick it up. Orla, thank you so much for being my guest
thank you, Louise.
today on this show. I think it's been absolutely phenomenal. So just to recap, we spoke to everybody about the steps that you should follow when you're writing a book. And we also talked about some mistakes that you should avoid, which I think were really practical and useful. Thanks again, Orla. And I look forward to publishing more and more books with you in the future.
Thank you so much, Louise. It's been an absolute pleasure. And again, I highly recommend anybody, if you're a business professional and you do want book marketing, I think get to Louise, have a conversation with Louise too.
Thanks very much, Orla. Thanks for listening to the Social Media Takeaway podcast. If you loved this episode and want deeper support with your marketing, head over to sellonsocialmedia.academy/hello.